Sometimes I sit back here and I'm like, what the hell, how's this become my life? It's still sitting here trying to be 16 years old, but there's a lot of joy in that. Everything about it just brings so much to my life. Just a little public service announcement. When you're out here, bro, please be careful, right? Like, so every time you see someone put their left blinker on, they're gonna turn right. You know what I mean? If you see a red light, they're like, okay, everybody's gonna stop. The guy's gonna go through the intersection. There's gonna be a guy coming out on a bike. There's gonna be a guy on a motorcycle going the wrong way. So just be careful, please. Your head always on a swivel. All right, we gotta go make some money for art supplies.
That's like really how Jake is, you know, he works his ass off, and in his off time, he's still painting.
He's half gangster, half neighborhood watch, takes care of the city above and below.
Put two 90s on each of them, like each in the 16th.
Send me videos where he's fucking in a goddamn sewer, and like there's a fucking water main busted, and this, like.
Because like I look at his paintings, and to me, it just looks like somebody who paints full time.
He's willing to do all this work.
So much passion, so much heart.
He has like a great appreciation for like, I think it boils down to craftsmanship.
I don't know anybody who keeps cars that clean, paint that original, and have a rabbit for a pet. As far as his art.
When you see it, you know it's his.
I think it speaks to a lot of different people on a lot of different levels.
That fucking honesty.
A lot of vintage tattoo imagery.
Old traditional tattoo designs that are already naive in a way, and he breaks it down even more.
I feel like he's obviously trying to follow some rules, but he's definitely really okay with breaking a lot of them as well.
This way of like, I'm gonna make this even more powerful somehow. And he does it. It's pretty crazy, because that's not easy.
It's something that I just can't turn it off, you know? I tried. I think 5 years ago or so, I had my studio burned down, and I lost the majority of the early work, you know, in a fire. It was like that moment when I was out there and everything was burned up, I'm like, well, you know, maybe I should get into something else here, you know? And 2 weeks later, I'm in some other studio that I rented, like, you know, I just accepted it. I just accepted that this is kind of like what I want to do, you know? And it comes down to it, like, I just love it. I love everything about it. I work from existing energies, you know, things that are around already. There's stories that people tell about artists that don't look at anybody else's work or whatever. I look at everybody's work, you know? I look at everything that I can. Yes, I grow this shit in here.
I'm glad you got to see me.
Me too. It's always good to see you.
He draws inspiration from a lot of different avenues. Yeah, I don't think you can pin it down to one thing.
Oh my God, look at that clock. I like the human aspect to everything, from the pinstriping to the tattoos to the custom cars that they look hand done.
He's attracted to like outsider art and weird things, and he loves it and he collects it, and I think it's like a huge influence on the way he paints and the way he operates.
Is that swap meet this Sunday?
Yeah.
Pasadena City?
PCC.
Yeah, that's a good one. I'm gonna go. We go to the flea markets and we go to the bookstores and we go and I find stuff that just prompts me to want it, and whatever it is, I'm open to it, so it changes.
The funniest shit is like I will hit him up and see what he's doing, and then like an hour later he'll send me like a photo of like a fucking cement motorcycle.
That's what we do for fun, I guess. But now you can see that really come out in his work as he's been doing more like figurative stuff.
Those old detective magazines.
That like old Hollywood noir type of themes, and like he loves the history of LA. Like I don't see him dying like in like Texas or something like that.
Incredible. I guess like the infrastructure of the city and the colors and
When you're constantly going from call to call, from station to station, from meeting to training to this and that through the city driving, I get it. I get to see a lot of the city, you know? So that always informs the work in a immediate way, you know? There's certain things that I see down some street somewhere that I take a picture of that I can like immediately use depending on what I'm doing in the studio, you know?
I think he's a bigger part of a movement right now that's merging fine art and tattoo culture.
It's crazy. It's crazy, dude. It's crazy. I can't believe it. Just to see it up in a setting like this, man, it's really humbling. It's really incredible. I can't believe it. I'm so grateful, Paul. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for including me, man. Yeah, yeah. It does interest me, the whole, like, the tattoo art isn't legitimized in the so-called high art world or whatever. But those guys had to have been looking at that stuff. I mean, I've seen a Bert Grimm Panther that he had to have looked at Picasso.
I was working at Classic Tattoo at the time, and that's in Fullerton, California. I'm in the back of the shop, like drawing or whatever, and I look over and there's this postcard. It's got a panther on it and this like abstract design. I'm like, that looks like Basquiat and fucking Jackson Pollock and fucking Bob Roberts had a kid, and like that's what that kid is painting, you know?
My own personal investigation of that come from Bob Dylan, you know, like where he had mixed French symbolist poetry with rock and roll. You know, nobody'd ever done that before.
Because I've always been into painting as well as tattooing. And I'm looking at this thing and I'm like, oh fuck, like this is like what I'm after. This is like exactly what I've been looking for, you know?
I mean, how I met him through Spotlight. You know, he came in wearing a DWP shirt and I thought that they were there getting inspected or something, you know what I mean? This slick motherfucker comes through like he's been there before, but he had been. He's got a back piece from Bob.
Bob Roberts told me about his work. I had already seen it a little bit. I knew he had a relationship with Bob. I went and met up with Jake when he was over on Skid Row. Talked a lot about Bob and what a big influence he was on him and myself as well.
Yeah, even like that temperature of red versus that.
Yeah, that's from Bob. Yeah, he does a lot of similar shades of red, you know, like a lipstick red and then a little bit pinker, and then like very blush.
Yeah. Being a tattooer in LA, Bob Roberts like paved the way for all of us. He's got one of the oldest shops in town. I like having work that is related to other aspects of my life. It doesn't say Bob Roberts, but when I look at it, I know that this is based off him.
The other thing, man, is it's fun. To have something in your house that you want to look at and keep looking at, the energy for somebody having fun is going to come out in it when it lights up a space.
I was only planning on buying one painting, and there were so many I loved that I ended up buying two.
First time I went to his studio, he had that behind some other paintings. There's just a little bit of it peeking out. The saying on it there too, that all the beauty of this world 'tis but skin deep. I don't know, I work at a fucking tattoo shop. It just hit home for me. Oh, and this one, he came through and did that here. He grabbed a bunch of our shit and stole some paper and and got down and framed it up. Fucker.
Charm little whistle off an evening train. Silvio. This is the little guy, Silvio. It's my studio assistant. He's in charge of public relations. I try to get something up the first time and get a ground in there, and then a lot of times it doesn't. You have to kind of be honest with yourself about that part of it too, because you could work off of a drawing or something that you've seen, and then as you try to get it into like a painting, it just doesn't look right. So we'll see if this one will stick. If you get it too quick, I kind of like feel guilty about it, and if I don't, I feel like I'm gonna die.
He's told me he was gonna quit painting probably more than 10 times. Like, he still tells me he's gonna quit painting. And then, like, the next day, he's, like, back there painting again all night.
All right. Sure it's getting somewhere. That's the kind of energy that kind of just keeps me in the studio all the time, you know? You have to always wrestle with that. I leave the studio, and it's like, well, I guess I can't draw anymore. Yeah, okay, well, maybe I get into blackjack, you know, I guess this isn't working. And then the next day I'm over there trying to get it right, you know?
What keeps Jake coming back, it's what keeps me coming back, is that like that weird battle, you know, and then you you achieve something in the end. And you might fucking hate it. And you learn something from that. You might love it, you learn something from that, but like you learn something from that experience.
And they all kind of start out with, I mean, I have like in my chest right now, it's like borderline anxiety feeling. It's like, I love that part of it. Everything's just moving at you at the same time. It's kind of, I don't normally talk at a camera when I'm doing it, but that's kind of like what's going on in my mind. When I'm sitting here, I'm thinking about life, you know, and then when I'm living my day-to-day thing, I'm always thinking about art, you know. Nobody can come in to your studio and tell you that this is the wrong way to do it. And I think there's something so incredible about that, where it's just so much freedom and so much individuality, you know, where this is how I feel about it, and it's okay to do that, you know? It's okay to, it's okay to tell the world how you feel, you know? I can't draw naturally. I know people that can draw. I've had to work and work and work and work and work to try to get the drawing somewhere where they can be used, but then there's also the part of the drawing where you work on a drawing and you try to blow it up as a painting and it doesn't work, and you have to be honest with that too. I think the first time that you sit out here all afternoon into the night and you work on something, you sit back and you're like, dude, it doesn't work. Like the first time that you can just paint one of them over, totally over, and go over again, then you're free. Then you can't make a mistake. Even this it will get mixed in, and then maybe a little of the yellow will go into the black. It's like that dance that the paint kind of does it for you. You just have to show up first, you know? You know, I'm not under any kind of illusion that this stuff is going to save the world, but it's not to make anything that like a saleable picture. It's to save yourself. And I guess I'm kind of like I'm an inherently like negative person, and I've had to work. I've had to work on that. I've had to really work on that part of my personality, and this is how it gets worked out. I don't want to approach situations like that, you know.
Glow-in-the-dark spray paint? Look at that though. Like, dude, if that was lit up in your house and it was glowing, I would have some shit like that.
I've been kind of plugging along at it slowly for 20 years, you know. The way that I grew up here in LA, like you always wanted to do something, or I did, or a lot of people did, that was rebellious and it was dangerous. But I didn't want to go to jail, you know what I mean? Like, I know a lot of people that have gone down a really, really negative path. For me, finding this, the painting, that's my way of doing it. I got lucky that it presented itself to me.
I met him when he was probably halfway into his career as an artist. I don't think our relationship would have been as strong if I wasn't interested in it, because I obviously found it attractive. You know, that he was a poet and that he was a painter and like, you know, worked on old cars and all of those things. I don't know how else to say it.
Well, the whole reason why I even continued on in a real way is because I met this artist, Mark Breslin, and he was a painter, and this was like early 2000s. And he had a studio in Brooklyn, and I was working, but in my backyard just for no reason. I was just doing it for fun, like, and I went in there, I was like, oh my God, you could like do this, you know? Yeah. He was like, oh, what are you working on? I'm like, nah, you know, and he's like, let me see. I sent him an email with some pictures, and I'm like, I'm not a real artist like you, you know? And he wrote back, you are a real artist. Yeah. And that changed, like, it gives me goosebumps just to talk about it. If it wasn't for him, I don't even know if I would even be doing this, you know? So I kind of just watched him too, you know? And he was working abstract at the time. It was just the first exposure that I had to anybody that had like a studio and a practice. I was learning all those things, you know?
It was above a mechanic's garage, and it was him and his friend Mark Breslin, and Mark is definitely a little bit more like posh and like into like the art world, so I guess that gave me a little validation that, okay, like maybe he's taking this seriously.
When I first started getting into his work, he did all these like super abstract things, but they reminded me of lights in the city and the rain. It just looked like jazz on a fucking canvas, you know?
I had so much respect for the people that were doing it. I just was like, fuck, dude, I can't even come anywhere close to what these guys are doing, you know? I liked Al Toon and Ed Moses, and especially Ed Moses, like just where you see an abstract painting that he did, you don't know how he did it. Like, how did he get the white underneath the red, but it's not here and it is there? I forgot about that one. I forgot that I had that. The paintings that I was doing during the time that I was on Venice Boulevard, it was right after my mother had passed away, and there was a lot of, it was just a really like dark period, you know?
Before, like at Venice Boulevard, he was definitely more like, I don't know, like just a little bit more crazy. Also, we were both like drinking a lot more, and it was just like a different time.
We were, so I was, it's like we were just blacked out drunk, you know?
I think it was like the second time I'd visited his studio. He finishes a painting, puts a new canvas up, and just starts like building out these shapes. He was working on an abstract painting. Suddenly he just has this piece of rubber and he's just like smashing it against the fucking painting. Bam, bam, bam. I was almost at the point where I was like, all right, like maybe I should step out of the studio, you know? Like, I don't know where this is about to go. To this day, that's like one of the most beautiful abstract paintings I've ever seen. It just looks like a fucking jazz song sounds.
Wake up in the morning and then see what you did. Instead of like doing a study and like trying to like research and stuff, it was just like you're just running the fucking thing with the throttle wide open. And then you read that's how those guys were, you know? That's how Franz Klein and de Kooning and the Cedar Bar and Philip Guston and Pollock, obviously. And you kind of like feel like you fit into that, but it's just totally not sustainable. The figurative stuff, it just allows you, I think, to express different emotions more effectively, you know? Things would get covered up with abstract marks then that were supposed to be figurative, and now I try to do abstract stuff that gets covered up with stuff that's figurative.
he's doing it strictly for the love of doing it.
I know Jake's doing it because he wants to do it and he has to do it. It's not for any other reason. You know, he's got a real job. He's gonna fucking have a retirement.
It's one of those things where I was just exposed to that when I was young. I mean, my grandfather worked for the city, my dad worked for the city, and it's something that I appreciate very much, and the opportunity to at least contribute just a small bit to the city that I grew up in. The artistic thing is very individualistic, and it's something that I think about a lot, but when I'm down there at work, I have to detach from that because safety is a huge thing where you want yourself and the guys that you're on the crew with to come home to the people that they love, you know? It's helped me in a way to detach it from the addiction of just making art, you know?
As soon as he gets home from work, he's in the studio. That's how it's always been though. Like, he's always worked for the city, and obviously that has a huge influence on his paintings.
I'm just in awe, and I think I want the paintings to be awe-inspiring, you know? You want your life to be even at work, you know, like there's super smart people. Like I'm surrounded, I'm never the best person when I'm somewhere. If I'm in the group at work and we're working on something, I'm never the most talented guy. I'm never the best artist. I'm never the best drawer. It's like that, and then you know you're keeping good company.
See my guys.
I'm just like some kid that like asked to come over to his studio and like check stuff out, and I'm asking a bunch of questions, but like he had a couple of questions for me for every question I had for him.
What's up, Otto?
He doesn't like look at anyone like he can't learn something from them.
Shriners?
Yeah, that's an old Shriners hat. Oh, this is my wife.
Finally happening. I know, right?
They met Silvio.
Oh, yeah, of course. We're gonna do a blowout show. Block out all the parking spots in the front.
Jake has a whole life behind him of, you know, ups and downs and all these like personal achievements and failures that like add to his work, and it makes it what it is.
Talking about all the study that you've done before, books and living life and going out there and seeing it, that's what it should be represented in your art. It's you know? How do you feel about being in the world? And I love all these things. And
When I see a painting from Jake, I could tell that Jake did it.
Not that I want to tell people what to think, obviously,
Yeah.
but you're a writer, you're a storyteller, there's so
I'm a
much
construction worker.
history.
as I've gotten older, it's like I just want to be considered a sincere person. That's my aim.
Wait, so what's going on? Guy needing help?
I just asked him if he needed tools or fuel. He said he had that car for 43 years and he was doing a valve adjustment right here in front of the port building. Because I got a couple tools, I just asked him if he needed help. It's the spirit of it.
When I was a kid, it was like the bad attitude was something that was good. All that fronting and all that stuff is just insecurity. All right, hey, thank you, Paul. I appreciate it. So it's like this practice too is just, it's improving my life in general.
I asked him what he was doing one day, and he's like, I'm at Bob's house, Bob Roberts, fixing his plumbing for him, you know, and he's an older guy and needs help. And Jake's like, if you want a friend, you gotta be a friend. That really stuck with me, and that's like really how Jake is, you know.
Okay. Let me know what I can do to help.
So I'm gonna have him take a pass
you can,
based on this and some of the information that this conversation was like
okay.
A portrait that you like that we would use in your whatever. I know.
I don't like Fadden pictures.
You look pretty good. Anytime I show people,
Oh, here's the
floor plan.
There's the floor plan. These are, oh, look at this one. Harbor Heights Tank Project.
Like, oh, like what do you do to get this texture right here? I like pointed out a specific texture. And I feel like with some people, maybe they would want to keep some things under wraps, you know, like keep some things a secret. He handed me a container of it and said, take it home, you know, like that sharing of information with him is like been like so important in my work, and it's influenced my work like directly, because like he handed me the thing.
125.
The last time I house sat, we were sitting in the studio the day before, and the whole time I was just staring at this painting behind him. And I was like, I'm sorry, I have to ask you, are you selling that painting? He was like, why don't you have it?
I certainly wouldn't be painting the way that I'm painting today if it wasn't for like meeting him, you know?
This is the example of like, there used to be this poster company in LA. It was called Colby Posters. So something, I envisioned them being something like this. I don't know if I'm gonna take my shirt off in a boxing stance, but maybe. Okay. I like the idea of longevity. To me, that's the only thing that matters, is sustaining the inspiration to do it. You know, like how am I still gonna be out here 80 years old, you know? Still out here having all that joy that's overflowing in your heart to be able to do something like this. How do you sustain that?
It gets fucking hard sometimes to keep going, because you're like, why am I doing this? Like, what's the point? And you remember you do it because you have to, or because you love to do it. I think he's a very big reminder to keep going because you love it.
Well, it's not lost on me, Hannah, and I appreciate it. I really do. Like in my heart, I appreciate it. Like just the opportunity to show them. It's like surreal, you know, just to have people that care about the work, you know, like it just means a lot to me, you know. Thank you.
I'm so excited. I'm really excited. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure to meet you. And then call me or let me anytime.
So excited.
Sarah, nice to see you.
I know.
Yeah, you can call me or text me anytime. Yeah, watch your step. This is the bunny barrier. All right, you guys. Thank you.
One around the corner too?
Yeah.
I want to make honest things, and I want people to see it, and for people who are sincere to want to be involved, you know? If not, then I got to go to work on Monday, and I can still be back here and be doing whatever I want to do as far as this goes, you know?
I leave you at the station, lay my letter in your hand. Says the phone when you come round, I guess when I'm back from Pretty Land. Now I hit the rails and say, oh, what a friends, but I must cry. Oh, I cry for the night I live Paris, and my blonde chérie behind, and so I cry. Oh, I cry. Now I'm bound for Italy with great tears in my blue eyes. You're my long-legged leg, and your tongue, it is so sharp. I'm gonna miss you oh so dearly when I'm traveling so far. Please hold me till the evening when my train is set to part. It breaks my heart, it breaks my heart. I said please hold me till the evening when my train is set to part. It breaks my heart.
Yeah, girl, yeah, it does, girl. You know it does. Oh God, yeah.
That's not good. Did you guys authorize this?
Hey.
This guy right here?
I just came in here, so do.
Wow. I didn't tell you, but I put a couple of hits of acid in that water that I gave you this morning. We're not even at the car wash right now.